So apparently I'm a booktuber now. Hello there, Internet. As many of you already know, I have a blog. And on it I do monthly roundups where I talk about all the books that I've read that month, but I don't really go into much detail, and so far in 2018 I've read like an interesting mix of things and I have thoughts. So here's the things I've recently read. The first book I read this year was Gordon Brown's My Life Are Times, which I mentioned in my last haul video, and basically I have thoughts. So this is the third political biography that I've read. I made a sort of pact last year that I wanted to read more non-fiction, and biographies are a really accessible non-fiction, and I've so far read 3 political biographies. I've read Gordon Brown's, Ed Balls and Tony Benn, and I've literally just realised that they're all white men whose surnames begin with B. They also have the fact that they're all part of the same political party in common, but the thing that I found most interesting about the fact that I'd read all 3 of those books is that they talk about a lot of the same events, because Gordon Brown and Ed Balls were both in cabinet and sort of in power at the same time, and Tony Benn was a member of the party when New Labour happened, and these guys sort of became at the forefront of the party. So it was kind of interesting seeing these 3 different people and their different opinions on the stuff that was going down, even though they're all members of the same party, and even though they all kind of believe in the same thing, but their approach to it was slightly different. I don't know, I just had a lot of thoughts. But aside from that, this was really, really interesting. Not just because I think Gordon Brown is a very interesting and underrated Prime Minister, but because this talked a lot about kind of the structure of Downing Street and sort of the day-to-day life of being a Prime Minister, and it also dealt a lot with like the global financial depression and various things that he's been involved with globally, like girls' education and things like that. So it was just really fascinating, and I kind of want to read more political biographies. I might even read one by a Conservative one day. After the heavy politics of Gordon Brown, I read Helena Oliphant is Completely Fine. Now, I was sent a digital copy of this book aeons ago by the publisher to read, and I never read it, I never got around to it. And then it was shortlisted for a Costa Book Award, and so I was like, I have that book, I should read it, and I did. And I don't know if I liked it or not. Basically, I can understand why it has sort of critical acclaim, and I can understand and appreciate its literary merit. But I don't know. I don't know if I liked it or not. Helena Oliphant is a tragic, sad story told in a really light-hearted, kind of flippant way, and although there were bits of it that I did really enjoy, and I liked kind of the slow burning of the story, I liked her character, I liked kind of her backstory and things like that, there were also lots of bits that I didn't like. I didn't like how kind of, I don't know, like how flippant it was. I don't know if I liked it or not. Have you read it? Let me know. Did you like it? How did you feel? I don't know how I feel. After the confusion of Helena Oliphant, I read a book I did very much enjoy, and that was God's Grave by J Kristoff, which is the sequel to Nevernight, which I read last year. Oh my god. Nevernight is Harry Potter for assassins. Our main character is a girl called Mia, who is out to avenge her parents after a sort of failed rebellion saw them being publicly hanged and thrown in prison and all that kind of stuff. So she's trying to avenge them, and she goes to the mountains of the Red Church to learn how to be an assassin so that she can carry out her revenge plan, kind of Arya Stark style. And at the end of Nevernight, obviously there's a sequel, so she graduates the school for assassins. But things aren't quite as they seem, and she kind of starts to question things a bit more in God's Grave, and oh my dear God, there was action, there was smut, there's so much Ash, Mia. Oh, I need more. I need so much more. I can't wait for book 3. It's out this year sometime, and I have a feeling it might be called True Dark. Any Nevernight fans, let me know if I'm warm with that one. Another book I have read recently is The Inexplicable Logic of My Life, which is by the same guy that wrote Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read in my entire life. So when I saw this, I was really intrigued and was like, oh, I bet that's going to be just as good. And I mean, look at this cover. This cover is fabulous. Unlike with Aristotle and Dante, which I fell in love with, I was left a bit unsatisfied by this book, and I kind of want to find out if other people felt the same way. This is the story of Salvador, who is a white boy whose mother died when he was 3, he's never met his father, and he was adopted by his mum's best friend, a gay Mexican called Vicente. And so Salvador has been brought up in a Mexican community with this Mexican family. He has a very, Hispanic-sounding name, and he goes to an all-Mexican school. So he's grown up being a white boy without any white culture. He has grown up with Mexican culture. His best friends are Mexican, his family is Mexican, that's all he knows. And when this book picks up, he is in his late teens, he's getting ready to go to college and all that kind of stuff. There's some serious home issues going on with his best friend Sam. Salvador has this really beautiful relationship with his father, his adopted father. They have such an amazing father-son bond, and their relationship is just incredible. But there are moments in this where Salvador is kind of questioning his identity, and he has a lot of pent-up aggression, and he wonders if this is from his biological father, who he's never met, and he doesn't know, if that's who he is, and who he's taken after, and all that kind of thing. Which sounds fascinating. All of those things together sound like a brilliant exploration of race and family and identity. Only this didn't go deep enough for me. Kind of felt a lot like all of those things were just sort of skimmed over, and instead what we got was just Salvador kind of narrating what's going on in his friends' lives instead of focusing on him and all this interesting stuff that he has going on. There are moments when he's questioning the fact that he's angry and being is that because of my biological dad? Literally it's a sentence and then it moves on to something else, and it's written so beautifully. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the way this book is written. It's written fabulously, but it didn't go deep enough for me, and I was left kind of unsatisfied. Guys, important announcement time. I have finally jumped on the Sarah J Maas train. Literally everyone and their cat has read a Sarah J Maas book. She has 2 long-running YA series, and I have recently read the first book of both of them. But the first one I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses, which kind of reminded me a little bit of Beauty and the Beast, but with fairies instead of beasts. I kind of liked it. I am going to read the rest of the series, I think, because as much as I was kind of reading it and being ugh, so many tropes, I also was reading it and being I am a little bit intrigued about what happens next, though. I am kind of addicted to the story. And I feel like this is going to be the new Mortal Instruments for me, because the Mortal Instruments series, I adore it. I love it. I've read all of them. I will continue to have this love for it, but I know that they're not great. And I feel like this series is going to be the same. They're just stories, not particularly well, I don't want to say that it's not well told, but there are other books that do the same thing that maybe do it a little better. I enjoyed it, I liked it, it took me a while to like it. I think I got to maybe 150 pages in, and then I was I'm invested now. Before I was just no, I guess I could finish reading that, but Yeah, I am now firmly on the sort of Feyre train. I want to know more about Rhys. I want to know more about Lucian. I want to know more about Tamlin. I want to find out more about the fairy world. I want to know where Feyre's family is gone. So yeah, I'm now a convert. The second Sarah J Maas book I read in as many months was Throne of Glass, because I figured if I'm picking up A Court of Thorns and Roses, I might as well also read A Throne of Glass. And basically, they're the same story with slightly different things in. So, whereas A Court of Thorns and Roses was girl taken by fairies in fairy court, falls in love with fairy that kidnaps her, has to do some trials to prove her love, kind of thing. This is about an assassin that gets taken from prison to the home of a very wealthy person and is put through trials and falls for him. Basically the same. I mean, am I going to read the rest of her books? Probably. Will I enjoy them? Probably. We're now going to come to perhaps my favourite book I've read so far this year, and that is Juniper Lemon's Happiness Index. When I was at YALC, there was a stand for this book, and the people running the stand were giving out freshly made lemonade, which is really nice. I had about 4 glasses. I just kept going back and be like, hi, I'll have a drink, thank you very much. And it's just a bittersweet, engaging story about grief and love and being a teenager and, you know, all that good stuff. And I liked it a lot. I really enjoyed it. I'd like Julie Israel to write more things, please. 10 out of 10 would read again. This is going to be a long video, just FYI. I read a lot. Another recent read of mine is Truth or Dare by Non Pratt, which is interesting because half the book is one person's perspective, and then you flip it over and read it backwards for the other person's perspective. What a novel idea. So I have read a couple of Non Pratt books. I've read Remix, which is alright, and I've read Trouble, which I quite enjoyed. I'd heard a lot about this book, mainly because of the cool flippy thing that you can do, and I knew I wanted to read it in like physical book form as opposed to ebook form. So when I saw this at the library, I was like, yeah, I'll give that a go. And basically, the first that much of the book is told from Claire's point of view, and then you have to flip it over and read it backwards for Seth's point of view. So, basic premise of this book, which is weird because there's no blurb because you read from both sides. But basic premise is that Claire is a girl who is kind of become the victim of some sort of like revenge porn type thing at school, and she is desperately trying to keep out of everyone's way and not get attention foisted on her. Only then an incredibly attractive boy that she quite likes asks for help with fundraising for care for his older brother, who has had an accident and is now in like a special care facility. And basically the idea is that the two of them set up a YouTube channel and do dares for money to raise enough money for his care. It's basic premise. But Claire doesn't know the whole story because Seth is keeping things from her. And, ooh, it was quite good. I liked it. I just found, like, does anyone else cringe a little bit when they read books about vloggers? Like, I know I'm saying this on camera in a video that's on my YouTube channel, but I don't know, it's just something's a bit cringy when you read about YouTubers. I don't know why that is, but it's a good book, it's alright. And the last book that I'm going to put in this recent reads, because I feel like I've been talking for a million years, is The Fandom by Anna Day, which was actually published a stone's throw from my house, which is nice. Publish me now, please. I'm kind of weirdly intrigued by books that are about nerd culture and like fandoms and things like that. Unconventional by Maggie Harcourt I read last year and I absolutely adored it. It was about Comic-Con and things like that. This is a story about a group of kids that go to Comic-Con and then something happens to them and they end up actually inside the thing that they are fans of. So they're fans of this book called Gallows Dance, which is then adapted into a film, and while they're at Comic-Con meeting the star of the film, something bizarre happens, and all of them, in their cosplay, end up in the universe of the Gallows Dance, and pretty much inadvertently change how the story works, and so then canon keeps trying to, like, write itself by using these kids instead of the people that are supposed to be doing those things. It was a very interesting book to read, because it does kind of explore canon and, like, fanfic and how the two, like, work together and things like that, and different interpretations of source material from people who are all fans. But yeah, it's another one of those books where I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I quite liked it, but at the same time, so those are all the books I read recently. I've been busy, I know. Tune in for hopefully some non-bookish related content soon.